So a couple nights ago, I ended up in a really scary situation when I was out with my boyfriend. Basically, there was a woman at this event. This was a concert, but it was one of those concerts where people bring their kids, which I'm not a huge fan of because there is so much drinking going on. But at this event, there was a lot of kids. And I was stone cold sober. I was not drinking. And my boyfriend was sober as well. And there was a single mom there with her daughter. And they're just walking around, enjoying the music, enjoying the food. And I cannot express to you how this woman just looked vulnerable and naive. And that, I don't mean that in an ugly way at all. She was very tiny. She was maybe 5 foot, 100 pounds. Her hair was in braids. She had like a cute round face. She just looked, she did not even look old enough to have a daughter that was like 8 or 9 years old. And at some point in the night, I noticed these men approaching her. And they're all quite a bit older than her, like in their late 40s. And they're talking to her daughter. And I'm like watching out of the corner of my eye, like, what's going on over here? Because the whole night, it really looked like she was alone with her daughter. So this one guy, which all these guys are drinking, but she ends up letting this man put her daughter on his shoulders to watch the concert, okay? A little while later, I see another man, also older, also drinking, do the exact same thing. And I'm kind of like, what's happening here? We ended up getting like closer to where she was, not even on purpose really, but we ended up being right beside her during like the in-between concert, so it's not as loud where you can't hear what's going on. These two men have to be 30 years older than this woman, and there's one on either side of her, and she's got her little girl with her, and like one of them's in her ear talking to her, the other one's leaned down talking to her daughter. And it just, the way I felt so uncomfortable, so like, this is not right. Whatever's going on here is really creepy. It's really weird. Like my spidey senses were just like blaring. And so my boyfriend, like I'm talking to him and I'm like, do you see this? Is this weird? And he's like, yeah, I mean, maybe she knows them. Like we don't know the situation. And I was like, no, there's something weird going on. Finally, one of the drunk, creepy old men wanders away and I take his spot. Like I like step where he was next to the mom. My boyfriend's right behind me and I just stand there. The other guy I can hear is like talking his friend up and he's like, yeah, he's a great guy, like such a good guy. Finally, he shuts the fuck up and I lean down to the girl and I'm like, hey, I just have a question. Like, do you know these men? Like, are you here with them? Are they your friends? And she looks at me with wide eyes and she's like, no, I don't know them. And like, they won't leave us alone. I'm like, do you want me to punch them in the face? Like, I will literally tell them to fuck off and get lost. And she's like, I just don't want to cause a scene. I don't want to cause a problem. Like, I'm just here to enjoy the concert with my dog. So my boyfriend, of course, is like, we will tell them to like leave you the fuck alone. He's like, I'll literally make them leave right now. Right around this time, the drunk idiot wanders back and he kind of like notices that I took his spot and he's like, what the hell? He leans down to the little girl and he says, do you want to get on my shoulders again? So I look at the mom and I'm like, do you want your daughter up on this creepy, drunk old man's shoulders so she can see the concert? I can see it on her face. She's scared. She doesn't want to cause a problem, but she's like, I just don't know how much he's been drinking. So she looks at him and she says, how much have you had to drink? And he goes, oh, I don't know. So I'm like fed up at this point and I look at him and I said, well, why don't you leave then? Why don't you get out of here? No one wants you here. And he gets in my face and he's like, what'd you say to me? Now remember, my boyfriend is right behind me and he leans over me and he's like, she told you to leave and you need to leave now. Right fucking now. So the drunk idiot starts fighting with my boyfriend, like yelling at him, telling him, I was fucking here first. I don't have to go anywhere. What'd you say to me, motherfucker? And my boyfriend is like not having it. He's like, don't fucking talk to my woman like that. You're gonna fucking leave. No one wants you here. I will drag you out of here if I have to. Like they're both just like going at it. The mom is still beside me with her little girl. And I'm just like, let's please not get in a fist fight if we don't have to. But the drunk guy like will not be reasoned with. He won't accept that like no one around here wants him, that he's being creepy and we're sick of him hanging around us. His friend starts piping in and is like, yeah, why do we have to leave? We didn't do anything. So then my boyfriend's like, the girl you're hanging out with doesn't want you here. Like she wants y'all to leave too. So the drunk guy finally is like, wait, you don't want me here? Yeah, you fucking moron. You're a 50-year-old creep hitting on a 21-year-old mother. So the girl's like, yeah, I don't want you here. I want you to leave. So he finally wanders off to go bother someone else, but the other guy just stays there. Like he's not going anywhere. He's going to keep hanging. So the rest of the night, all these drunk people in the crowd continue to try to put this little girl on their shoulders. Not the original one, thank God. And like, I just got so stressed out about it. I wish that the mom had left. Like, I think the best choice would have been for her to have just left. We offered to walk her to her car. She wanted to stay for the concert. She wanted her daughter to see the concert. I'm not like judging her choice in that, but I do feel like she was a little bit naive as to like how obvious it was that these men were buzzing around her. And I don't know if they were doing it to try to get with her, to try to get access to her daughter. Like, the thing that really struck me about the whole thing was that, like, she just seemed very naive and, like, not aware of how really, really uncomfortable and dangerous this situation was. What really upset me about the situation is that the mom seemed to think the only problem was that these men were drinking and therefore it wasn't safe for them to hold her daughter. But the perception that I got and my boyfriend got was like, why are 50-year-old men trying to hang out with a 21-year-old mother and her daughter? That's not normal. That is odd. That is weird. You need to assume the worst about those types of men.
Our daughter disclosed that her brother assaulted her in November of 2023. And I think people have this idea in their minds of how they would react if that were said to them. I don't know that you know how you would. I didn't know how I would react, so I'm going to tell you how I reacted. She shared with me one evening after school. Our son was not at home. He was staying with our older daughter. I listened, validated, went in my car and screamed and cried because I could not believe that this is where we were at. The next day I called and made a report to CPS, could be DCFS, in your area, started the whole investigation process. They came out and talked to her, set up a forensic interview for her. My one request of them was that they not tell our son anything was happening. I did not want them talking to him until they absolutely had to, because I knew he would run. I knew he would run away if he knew what was happening, because we had had, at this point, like 7 years of fully denying that anything had ever happened, on repeat over and over again. And I knew this was going to push buttons in an already unstable kid. Didn't want to risk that. So I asked them not to talk to him. She did her forensic interview. That came back as, yes, this most definitely did happen. So they set up an interview with him. I was the one who got to go pick him up from our daughter's house, drive him to the interview, tell him where we were going. He was not happy about that because clearly he didn't do it. We walked into the interview. There was a caseworker, CPS worker there, and a detective. The CPS worker asked him general life questions. How's school? How's home? What do you do for hobbies? That kind of stuff, which our son answered all of those questions. The detective read him his rights, and our son immediately asked for a lawyer. At that point, the interview was over. Our son walked out. The detective let me know they would not be pursuing charges. That was it. That was it. What I knew at that point was that I had a healing child at home and another child who had no consequences. I am the consequences. Parents are the consequences, which seems really unfair in the grand scheme of things, that the person who is supposed to love and care for and be the soft place to fall and all of, we're also the consequences because there are no other consequences. We placed him in a disability services group home because we had nowhere else to place him. CPS had no other options for us. They told us we could move our daughter somewhere else and bring him home. We said, absolutely not. She is not leaving our house. He was in a group home from February until June of 2024. He was running away constantly, using substances. This was clearly all unfair. We were punishing him because he didn't do anything. Clearly didn't do anything. In June of 2024, he went into a secure inpatient facility. While he was there, I went into one of our family therapy sessions and I asked his therapist if I could push a few buttons. And I did. I asked some very point-blank questions and I got answers. He admitted to everything, which I think should feel like a relief in some ways, and yes. And also, I still have to carry a healing child and another child. I have 2 lives that I'm still carrying. That doesn't, I'm still a mom to 2 children. That doesn't change. I have 2 children, one who was hurt, one who did the hurting and has no consequences for it, who admitted to doing it and has no consequences for it. You don't know how you'll react because you're still the parent. You're still the parent of both people. And you still love both people. Even if you think in your mind, well, I'm going to automatically have all this anger and all this hatred and all this, you're still the parent.
I was one of the women who came on the internet and posted a video of my husband. And the internet was like, what the fuck? Okay, this was a while ago. This was COVID times, right? Okay, so it's COVID and we're at home. I think we had McDonald's and my ex-husband was feeding my son. And now he was joking, in my opinion, joking, right? Now, I'd been in this relationship for 5 years at this point. So he's joking with my son and he's like cursing. But what he was saying, I thought was funny because again, I had been with this person for 5 years. And I'm not going to give you any contextual on the background yet, but I post the video. And I start getting comments from people. And this was the first video I'd ever posted on TikTok before I ever had a platform, before I thought of a platform on TikTok was even a concept in my brain. So I post it and I start getting comments of like, why would he talk to your son this way? Like, this is not funny. Why are you guys laughing? All this stuff started coming in. And I think it was like 4 or 5 comments deep. And I remember going to him and being like, hey, people are saying this on the internet. Like, I'm starting to question things, like, this is weird. And he was like, why would you care what people on the internet have to say? Like, they don't understand the context, they don't understand the this, they don't understand the that, like, people on the internet are just miserable. So the gaslighting ensues, right? But what he hadn't known is that my sister was already in my ear being like, I don't like him. Like, something's not right. I remember her sitting me down into the relationship and like crying, having a breakdown. And she's like, I don't recognize my sister. Like, what is going on here? Like, she didn't come to my wedding. And side note, I tried to call my wedding off. Like, we were getting married in January and I think I sat down in like December and I was like, hey, like, you're unhappy, I'm unhappy. Why are we getting married? Why are we doing this if we're clearly not in a good place? And I don't think it's going to end well. And he again, the gaslight, like just sobbing hysterically, like, I wanted to do this forever. His words, I've wanted to do this forever. Please don't take this away from me. What are we going to tell people? Like, everyone's already planning on coming because we were doing a destination wedding. We end up getting married. But within, like, so it's been a year, 6 months-ish, a year since we were married. And I was like, this is not going well. Like we shouldn't have gotten married. This is not going well. He ended up throwing a cup of water in my face. Okay. That was the thing that ended up like ending our marriage. But I say all of this to say that women, when they're in these situations, they don't realize you are so conditioned to their behavior. You are so taught that what is going on is okay. And there were so many times that I checked in with people in my life and the only person who really ever said anything about him, that not liking him, not agreeing with, like, having any issues with my ex-husband, was my sister. She was quite vocal about it but she had come to stay with us for a couple months and she literally was like, what the fuck is this? Like, you guys are always fighting. Like, this is not healthy. Like, what are you doing? Like, she very much was the only person that was extremely vocal. And now she's my younger sister. So I just assumed, honestly, that she just didn't understand how hard and how much work relationships were. That was the mentality I had in my head because we were taught from a very young age that if you're a woman, a relationship is work. A relationship is supposed to be you giving. It's supposed to be you meeting this other person. And what I never realized is that I was consistently the one like going more and more and more. When I see these women posting things on the internet like, oh, my husband packed my lunch and he put dog food in it, and her thinking it's funny and it's a joke, she probably actually thinks it's funny and it's a joke. But not only that, but everyone around her is also somewhat enabling this behavior. And one of the things that I've said a lot of the times is if you're coming out of a toxic or an abusive relationship, you really need to look at the people around you. And a lot of people take issue with that because you don't have a lot of community around you after you come out of those relationships because they've alienated a lot of people. But the only people that they won't alienate away from you are people who enable their behavior. My ex-husband really loved my mom. And now me and my mom have made a lot of strides in our relationship. We've worked a ton on our relationship. I've gone to therapy. She's gone to therapy. We talk every day. We talk a lot about our relationship, a lot about childhood. But she was one of the people that was like, a relationship is a lot of work. Like, she convinced me to stay with him a year longer. I had friends around me at the time that convinced me that what was going on was very normal because in their mind, it was very normal. And those were people that my ex-husband had no issue with because they enabled his bad behavior. So when these people come on the internet and they post videos and they don't understand why you're getting upset, it's because everyone in their life has normalized shitty men's behavior, including themselves. And anytime that they've gone to someone for advice about their relationship, like, oh, we're having issues, they're getting gaslit by not only the man man, but everyone in his close circle, all his friends and family, if he has any remaining in his close circle, and all of her friends and family that have chosen to stand by this guy. And generally, not a hard fast rule, but generally, if you're someone who's in a relationship with a man like that and you don't know the signs to look out for it, I would guess that the people around you, your friendships and things like that, they're also kind of down that manipulative, toxic rabbit hole as well. I mean, I had a friend she was a personal training client who became a friend, and I remember going to her and I was like, hey, I'm having all these issues, da 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 da. Her and my mom were the two people that were like, that's just a relationship, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of this, it's a lot of give, you have to give, because that's what they experience in their own life. Now, after I ended things with this man and me and this girl are going somewhere one time, she was talking about her sister and how her sister's husband basically was going to cheat on her if she didn't have intimacy with her husband. Basically, women should expect to be cheated if they're not having intimacy with their husband. And now me being the wife that was not having intimacy with her husband, I was sitting there going, well, what is he doing that makes her not want to have intimacy with him? Like most people who are in relationships and are, heterosexual, they want to have intimacy with their partners. And if they're not wanting to have intimacy with the partners, there's generally something going on that's making that happen. Whether it's the labor in the household, whether it's financial struggle, like whatever's going on, you generally want to connect with the person that you are in love with. And if you're not wanting to do that, there's generally a specific reason. And I remember sitting this and she goes, no, like if a man cheats on you, that's your fault. And I remember sitting back in our friendship and kind of like starting to separate myself in that moment, because I was like, oh, this kind of mentality is not healthy for me to be around, especially after leaving my ex-husband. And now what I found is when I would lean into her and say, hey, I'm struggling with this, trying to rely on her as a friend, she would start to try and control my behaviors. She would tell me, you need to go and become this type of job. You need to go back to school for this. You need to do this. And she was very, very, very controlling, even in a friendship. And I realized, oh, I've allowed people around me who have the same pattern of behavior as my ex-husband. So it took rooting out not only the relationship I had with my ex-husband, but also reestablishing the relationship I have with my mom, reestablishing the relationship I have with my sister, and then also rooting out all of these friendships that I thought were good friendships. She wasn't the only one. Almost every single close girlfriend I had around me was perpetuating abuse patterns and or victims of abuse themselves. And when I would try and be like, hey, this is not healthy, they could not see it, did not want to see it. So when you see these women coming online and then they get defensive over their husband, it's because they most likely are getting this backlash, and then they're going to the people in their lives and saying, hey, am I not seeing this clearly? And the people around them are also not seeing this clearly. That's just the reality that we live in currently. Emotional abuse is really not talked about. It's really not dissected a lot. And a lot of the times people think that emotional abuse is not the same as physical abuse, or like even when I tell people like, oh, he threw a cup of water in my face, so many men and so many women will be like, that's not physical abuse. It is physical abuse, and the physical abuse started with him throwing remotes and slamming doors. Physical intimidation is a form of physical abuse, even if they're not directly putting their hands on you. And when I look back at the relationship, he taught me how to do Muay Thai and kickboxing. And I remember we would go to the gym and do Muay Thai and kickboxing, and he would hold pads for me because he had been doing it his whole life. And he would hold pads for me, and then he would ask me to hold pads for him. And that man would take out every ounce of anger and frustration he would have on those pads, to the point where people in the gym would be looking at us like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And at the time I was like, oh, he's so strong, he's so this, he's so that. No, that man was in a way beating me publicly. Even though he wasn't physically putting his hands on me, he was putting them on pads. I was still taking the brunt of kicks and punches. So even this conversation, it's about dog food in a bag, but it's really about emotional abuse. And it's of the fact that a lot of people don't really realize that emotional abuse is just the stepping stones into physical abuse. There was a guy, I believed he worked for the FBI, and he came on and he said, if your partner calls you a bitch, he will put his hands on you. And if he'll put his hands on you, he will unalive you. It may take him 20 to 30 years, but we always hear of these people saying, oh, I never thought he was capable of that. I never thought he could do that. Well, the signs were always there. We're just told that they're not. And it starts with simple things like putting dog food in your girlfriend's lunch as a joke. A joke. I myself get frustrated with these women because they will come on the internet and they will put out these things, and then when they get pushback, they start getting offended. And the reality of the situation is it might be the starting point of their divorce. I've seen women come on the internet, and I want to say that when people on the internet were calling out the behavior that I thought was very normalized because I was in it every day, it might have taken me, 6 months, a year to really recognize it. And it's still something that you years later realize, oh, that was not normal. Which is why I do think we should be calling that out when women post things like this. Because even if it's not the woman posting it who has the realization, it's the woman seeing the comments. It's the woman realizing, oh, it's not normal for my partner to hate me.
Here's another story that indicates how weird my parents are, specifically my dad. So when I was about 12 years old, I walked into my parents' bedroom in the afternoon to grab something. And my dad was laying in bed, and I saw his phone screen when I walked in. And on his phone screen was an anime called Rosario plus Vampire. Now, at the time, I was coincidentally also watching the show. I want it to be very clear that I was 12 years old. My stage of development in my brain was not to the point where I was understanding what fan service was. All I saw was that the main character had pink hair and she was pretty and cute, and I liked that. I did not realize that all of the characters were being incredibly objectified and hyper sexualized. So when I saw my dad's phone screen, I got really excited because I was like, "Oh, you're watching Rosario plus Vampire. I'm watching that too." And when I asked him about it and I got excited, he got nervous and he hid his phone and he was like, "What? What are you talking about?" And I didn't understand. I was like, "Oh, I saw you're watching Rosario plus Vampire." And when he realized that he was caught, he was like, "Oh, yeah. Oh, you like it too." And he acted normal again. So I didn't think anything of him getting nervous at first. I was kind of confused. But then when he got excited, because my dad and I had such a turbulent relationship, I was just glad that there was something we could bond over. So he started making references to the show. And in one of the episodes, all of the students eat curry and they all become like curry zombies or whatever and start saying curry, curry. I don't know. And so often he would come up to me just randomly and be like, "Curry, curry," to try to bond with me through the show. And I would always think it was funny. And even when I was 14 years old, I made him a Father's Day card with the main character on the front of the card. Now, flash forward to me in high school. I am at a different stage of development in my brain, and I understand and acknowledge and am actually triggered by fan service. I cannot consume any anime with fan service in it. And at this point, I realize how weird Rosario plus Vampire was, in that all of the students, all of the characters in the show are students, they're children, and they are being objectified for the gratification of men. And my dad was consuming that anime. It is one thing for a little girl to consume that anime, in that I was not aware of the implications and the rationale behind objectifying these characters, and it's another thing for a grown man to consume that content. It is incredibly disturbing and weird as hell. And so as I got older and realized how weird it was, I progressively became more and more uncomfortable with my dad making references in an attempt to relate to me. And so it got to the point where he would come up to me and make references about the show, and I would just stare at him because I was so uncomfortable. And this is a side note, but also to be mentioned because I feel it could have some validity. My dad also followed Belle Delphine when I was in high school on Instagram and told me about it. Okay, bye.
My wife is pregnant, and she believes that our baby is a miracle child because I'm infertile. But this baby defies all human logic. I'm 32 years old. My wife is 33. And when we first met, she had a strong stance against having kids. She said she doesn't want any kids. It's going to ruin our lifestyle. She wants to be able to travel, just get up and do what she wants. She wants us to be able to enjoy life, so she doesn't want kids. I can't have any kids. I had an injury in high school, a football injury to the groin, and it left me not able to have kids. Many doctors have confirmed, they have did many tests, and it was definitive that I can't have kids. So since she didn't want kids and I couldn't have any, I was on board with that. Now, I never told her about my injury, right? Well, A couple weeks ago, I'm talking to my wife. She's hiding something, like, she don't want to talk. And I'm like, baby, what's going on? And she said, well, I know how we talked about us both not wanting kids, but I am 8 weeks pregnant. I was shocked because I'm thinking, wait, how can you be pregnant? I can't even have kids. I am in shock. And she says, baby, 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 because she sees I'm shocked. I know we didn't want to have kids, but now that I'm pregnant, I just have this urge to want to be a mother. The kid's going to have your athletic build. Kid's going to be smart like me. They're going to be able to play so many sports. Blase, right? And I'm just wrapping my head around the fact that, how are you pregnant? You had to cheat to be pregnant. I can't get you pregnant. That's all I'm thinking. And I'm trying to play it cool, right? I don't want to accuse her of anything, right? You're pregnant. I don't want to give you any unadded stress. So I tell her, I say, maybe we should consider our options. She says she really wants to have this baby. Being pregnant has instilled in her a new feeling of motherhood. She wants to have the kid. I contemplate, and I tell her, I tell her, hey, listen, I had an accident in high school that left me unable to have kids. I had an injury to the groin, and I cannot have any children. I told her. She didn't believe me. She wanted to see the medical records. I showed her the medical records. She then said, this can't be correct. Let's do a fertility test. Both of us will take one because doctors can be wrong. This has to be wrong because I'm pregnant. So let's go do a test. Let's go do a test together. I didn't say anything. Whatever. I go through with it because I already know how the test is going to come back. It's been like that for years. I had a bunch of tests done already. But fine. Let's do it. We take the test. Test comes back. I have zero sperm count. I am unable to have kids the natural way. I can't have them. If I have kids, it has to be through some operations. I can't do it the normal way. Doctor lets my wife know that. Doctor tells me. My wife explodes on the doctor, saying how human science can't, solve everything. You're wrong. You mixed the test up because I haven't cheated on my husband in 4 years of marriage. You're wrong. That isn't right. We need another specialist. You are dumb. Called the doctor. Incompetent. Fine. Spiraling out of control, right? So, we leave. We get home. She locks herself in the bathroom. She's crying. She stays in there for 2 hours. She comes out of the bathroom. I'm like, okay, well, here it is. She's finally ready to be honest. She's finally ready to tell me what happened, how she got pregnant, all of that. She's ready to face the facts. She's ready to talk. Turns out she was in the bathroom for 2 hours looking at TikToks, looking at YouTube videos, looking at testimonies of people saying how their babies were miracle, how it defied all logic, and they got pregnant. She's telling me that the doctors are wrong, that this is a miracle that goes beyond all human logic, something that we can't understand, given to us from up above, that she is pregnant by miracle. I just sit there and I look at her. And I say, baby, we not even that religious. She then tells me that I have no faith. That I have no faith. She starts calling out her family members, telling them how we're having a miracle baby that defies all logic. They're calling me, congratulating me. And I don't even know how to feel. I don't even know what to sit there and even say to them. Because my wife is starting to believe her own lies. She's starting to believe the own story that she's making up. And the worst part about it, she's looking at me like I'm just some faithless, unbelieving husband. The next step is to get a DNA test. And once that's done, guess I have an update.
This 28-year-old teacher essayed her 15-year-old student. She was so obsessed with him that even on her wedding day, she was locked in the bathroom crying about this 15-year-old boy. Christina Formella seemingly had a very normal childhood. In high school, she was popular, she was on the soccer team, she went to college on a soccer scholarship and majored in education. Christina's biggest dream in life was that she wanted to be a teacher. Specifically, she wanted to be a teacher for kids with special needs. Ironically, Christina said that she wanted to be a safe space for children. In college, Christina met and started dating Michael, and he really did seem head over heels in love with her. After college, Christina was working as a teacher's aide. Her and Michael got engaged and were planning a destination wedding in Italy. And then in 2020, Christina got her dream job as a special education teacher at Downers Grove High School outside of Chicago. Christina also became a soccer coach for the boys and girls team. At this point, Christina has it all. She's living the dream life. She has her dream job, a wonderful fiance, planning a destination wedding in Italy. She's even coaching soccer, which was another huge passion for her. And then everything changed in 2023. There was a boy on the soccer team that Christina coached, and she became infatuated with him. He was only 15 years old, and at this point, Christina is 28 years old, about to be 29. His identity is protected, it's unknown, so we're just gonna call him James. James ended up suffering a very serious sports injury and couldn't play soccer anymore. And Christina realized that that meant she wouldn't see him anymore, so she offered to be his tutor so that she would have an excuse to see him. So nearly every single day after school, Christina would tutor him. So now 28-year-old Christina has a time to be alone with 15-year-old James. Christina was friendly and then she was flirty, and it wasn't long until she got the teenage boy's phone number. She was then texting him and FaceTiming him every single night. And with these text messages, the communication between the two became even more flirty. It escalated. It was disturbing and disgusting. Christina is texting and FaceTiming this child in a deeply disturbing, inappropriate, and illegal way. All while she's probably in the same home as her fiance, Michael, the man that she's about to marry in just a few weeks. And then 28-year-old Christina planned to a 15-year-old James for the first time. The two met at school early before classes started. They met in Christina's classroom where she taught children with special needs. Christina took off his pants and executed this child on a desk where another child with special needs would be sitting and trying to learn in just like an hour. Absolutely disgusting. Can you get any more disgusting and foul if you tried? Not long later, James turned 16, and shortly after his 16th birthday, he began liking another girl at school, a girl that was actually his age. And this made Christina furious because she's obsessed with him. She's saying that James is cheating on her even though he's a child. And the irony, I guess, was lost on her that she's actually the one cheating on her fiance, Michael, with a literal child. She ends up sending him this long text freaking out on him, and I'm going to read it to you in a second. I'm going to be reading it off my computer just so you guys know. I'm going to be looking this way. Remember, this is text between a nearly 30-year-old woman and a barely 16-year-old boy. I say that because it sounds more like a college girl texting a frat boy that ghosted her. I, once again, from day effing one, called your next girlfriend. You're so effing predictable and disgusting. Shocker, you cheated on me with her. All I was to you was somebody to F. I'm not even upset. I'm not mad. I'm not any of that. I've just lost interest. I went back and screenshotted every single time I said that we should break up until after the wedding or after you graduated, and every single effing time you came back and convinced me it would be fine. I initiated every single breakup, and only for you to end things saying that you couldn't get over it. You ruined us. I warned you we should have never started dating a long effing time ago, and you gaslit me and convinced me it would be fine because that's who you are. We will never ever be together ever again. I'm not a second choice. I'm the best thing you'll ever have, even with all my mistakes. You once again waited and strung me along until I was convenient for you. It broke me. Last time, this time, it changed me. I'm not sad. I'm effing mad. I let a 16-year-old boy F with me like that. I made a promise that I will never let a guy F with me again, ever again. In the end, we both lost. You lost the girl who have stuck with you through everything, thick and thin, who would have changed anything about herself to make you happy. and I lost the person I was before you. Literally so stupid. James thankfully ended things with Christina, and not long after, Christina went off to Italy to go marry her fiance Michael. And while in Italy at her beautiful destination wedding surrounded by her closest friends and family, Christina locked herself in the bathroom and cried about a teenage boy that she was obsessed with and had just lost control over. On her literal wedding day, she was manifesting this teenage boy, James, into getting back together with her. She took out her phone and wrote in her notes app a manifestation entry. She wrote in her notes app, "The teen is going to reach out to me soon and try to fix things between us, and in the meantime, I'm going to live my best life knowing that he's not the person I thought he was and he is beneath me." She wrote that on her wedding day. She is literally crashing out over a child. And after returning from Italy, Christina and Michael had a second wedding for everyone that couldn't go to their first wedding in Italy. And Michael is completely blindsided. He has no idea that his brand new wife, one, cheated on him with a teenager, and two, was still obsessed with him and wanted him back. And then 5 months after Christina and James went no contact, about 5 months after she is just married, her love of her life, her new husband, she's a brand new newlywed, she's still obsessed with James, and she's still manifesting this teenager in her notes app. She wrote in her notes app, "This time, James and I will connect soon in a positive way. We will both get the closure that we need and move on in a healthy way. We will be able to be a part of each other's lives forever. We will be in each other's lives forever. We will be able to love each other, but also live our own lives." In March of 2025, so really recently, James broke his cell phone. His mom bought him a new one, and she was transferring all of his photos and contacts and messages onto his new phone. James's poor mother starts seeing all of these disturbing text messages come in between her 16-year-old son, then 15-year-old son, and his 30-year-old teacher, his former tutor and soccer coach. James texted her, "I love you so much, mama." Christina texted back, "I love you so much, baby." Even though this morning was short, it was perfect. She's talking about the morning where she essayed him in her classroom. He said, "I know, baby, it was perfect, so perfect." She said, "I love having with you," and he says, "I know, baby, I love it so much. It feels so good. It's so passionate. It's so intimate. It is perfect." James's mother goes to the police, and on March 22nd, 2025, Christina was out driving around with her new husband when she's pulled over and arrested. She acts shocked, like she has no idea why she's being arrested. She says that she's innocent. She says that James was the one that was obsessed with her. She says that people do this to her all the time because she's so good looking and such a good person. Police got a hold of Christina's phone and found that she was having more flirty conversations with even more students, so it's possible that she had even more victims out there than just James. Christina pled not guilty, and in June of 2025, just a few months ago and right around her first wedding anniversary, she was indicted on 52 additional charges. Allegedly, her husband Michael still publicly supports her, and as far as I could find, there has not been a trial date set yet. Remember, she has not gone to trial yet, so all of this is still alleged. So often boys are not seen as victims, especially victims of SA, especially when their abuser are a woman. So thank you so much for listening to today's story.
Put a finger down if you messaged a guy on Facebook a little over a month ago because you guys kept liking each other's stories, so you thought why not, even though it's something you not normally do. And then he messages you back and you guys actually make plans for the next weekend to go on a double date with your best friend and her husband in Atlanta. And then the date goes so well that you end up spending the whole weekend with him, and that he continues to tell you that you should move down there, and that he will cut off everybody for you. And that Saturday he skipped a Bailey Zimmerman concert because he wanted to spend the day with you, so you guys went to the pool and then he cooked you dinner, and then you put his bed frame together. And before you leave on Sunday, you guys make plans for the next weekend, and you make plans to go to the Braves game with the same couple that you hung out with the first time. Well, then come Thursday, he sends you a screenshot that Temptation Island has messaged him on Instagram and that he's not going to message back, all because he posted a TikTok of a white girl haul that you told him would be funny to post on TikTok, and it ended up blowing up and it backfired in your face. But he said he wasn't going to message Temptation Island back. And then Thursday, he was being really weird, and you thought he was on another date, and you asked him, and he told you that he wasn't. And so come Friday, he texts you when you're on the way up there, and he said, "You'll never believe the phone call I just got," and then he doesn't tell you what it is. And then on the way to the game, he tells you that Temptation Island called him, even though he said he wasn't going to message them back. So then you have a pit in your stomach because the reason he said he wouldn't go is because of football and not because of you. So you go to the Braves game and you have lots of fun, and then you end up staying the whole weekend with him, and you meet his sister, and he continues to tell you that you should move up there and that he wants to cut everybody off for you, and he really likes you and sees a future with you, and you guys continue to make all these plans, and you open up and tell him everything about you, and he tells you things that he said he's never told anybody else before. And then you decided before you left on Tuesday that you guys were going to go to the beach for the 4th of July, so you were super excited because that means Tuesday night and Wednesday night you were sleeping alone, and the Thursday night you're going to go pick him up from work at the new job he just started, and that you guys were going to head to the beach. And then come Wednesday when you're at work, he texts you and says that he has to work on Saturday and so that you can't go to the beach. So you ask if we're still going to do something for the 4th, and he says that you will. And so he said that he'll make plans on Thursday night, and you don't hear from him. And then Friday he messages you and just says good morning, asks how you sleep, and then doesn't say anything. And then you see on his Facebook story while you're at a pool party with your friends that he's at the beach. So you send him this message and you screenshot and you ask if he's at the beach, and then he sends you a mirror selfie on text and doesn't realize that you can save it and see when it was taken, and it was taken Tuesday at 2:13 p.m. So then he tries to gaslight you and tell you that he's not at that beach and that he's with his family, and he's barely talking to you, and he snaps you once a day even though he used to snap you 24/7. And so he continued to gaslight you, and you continued to stay because you're a dummy and you really liked him and thought that he was the one. And then the next weekend he was like, I wanted to take you to the Blues in Pensacola, so that's what you guys thought you were gonna do. And then when you asked him on Tuesday what the plans were for the weekend, he said that he had to work all weekend, so that you guys weren't going. So then you worked on Friday night and picked up a shift, and when you went outside to take the trash, you got on your phone and that you saw that he was in Pensacola, and so you sent him a long text because you haven't heard from him in 6 hours. And you send a long text and try to end things with him, and mind you, he hasn't talked to you in 6 hours, and it doesn't even say delivered, it goes straight to open, and he calls you and you answer, and he tries to tell you that it was really rude and disrespectful that you did not call him, even though you tried to call him twice earlier that week and he didn't answer the phone. He just ignored you. So then he continues to gaslight you, and I tell him that he needs to get it together because I've communicated multiple times that he's not the same he was 2 weeks in, and he promises you that he is. So then you make plans to hang out on Tuesday, so you go up there, but he's being really sketchy when you get up there, and you end up just going to the mall and waiting on him instead of meeting him at his house. And so you stay the night, and then you wake up and you leave early Wednesday because he has practice, and then you have to get back for work that night anyways. And so then you have plans to go to the Ty Myers concert, which tickets you bought months ago, and you bought 2 because you were being very wishful thinking, and you went with the same couple. And on the way to the concert, this girl kept blowing up his phone and called him and called him and called him because you had posted a Instagram picture in his bathroom, and she calls him and calls him, and he keeps declining and saying that she's calling about season tickets and that she's actually engaged and that she has a kid, and he doesn't want to be with anybody that has a kid, point blank period. And so then come to find out, it's the same girl that commented on his TikTok a few weeks ago, and you had asked him about it, and he said that she was just a friend. And so then she keeps calling and he keeps declining, and then you look at your phone and she's messaged you and she's asking if it's his bathroom, and you say yes, and you're literally about to have a panic attack because this whole time he's been talking to her. So then we end up just going to the concert anyways because I had bought these tickets and I was super excited, and we met up with my best friend and her husband, and he was on his phone the whole entire night. And then when you get back, you get in the bed and you look at him and you're like, do you even care about me? And he said, yeah, do you care about me? And then he gaslights you into telling you that you're actually the problem and that he's never talked to her before, even though she had messaged you and said that her and her kid were there the night before. And which makes sense because there was actually 2 to-go cups and apple juice in the trash can, because why would he be drinking all 3 of those drinks? So then you lay in the bed and you're talking to him about it, and you really want to cry and go home, but you can't because you had been drinking and you're 3 hours away from home and your friend won't answer her phone. So he ends up going to sleep after gaslighting you and telling you that it's all in my head and that I'm actually crazy. And he goes to sleep, so I go on his front porch and I cry for like an hour, and I call my best friend and I want to go home but I can't. And then I go get back in the bed and I wake up and I leave and I go play softball. And then the girl messaged me again, a very petty message, even though I was telling my friends the whole time that I felt so bad for her because her child was involved, and it was like no big deal. And yeah, so put a finger down.